The massive alien warship appeared without warning on a quiet Tuesday morning. It simply materialized above Earth's atmosphere, its dark metal hull gleaming under the sun's rays. The ship was larger than anything humans had ever built, stretching nearly 3 miles from end to end. Inside the ship's command center, Commander Stone stood tall, his metallic armor reflecting the soft blue lights of the control panels around him. He watched the primitive scanning devices of Earth trying to make sense of his vessel, and a small smile formed on his face. His people had passed this level of technology thousands of years ago. "Sir, the humans are attempting to communicate," reported his second-in-command. "They're using radio waves." Commander Stone made a sound that might have been a laugh. "How quaint. Let them try their weapons first. I want to see what they consider to be their best defense." The humans didn't disappoint. Within hours, fighter jets approached the alien ship. Their missiles bounced harmlessly off the energy shields, not even causing a ripple in the defensive barrier. Next came their most powerful nuclear-tipped missiles, which the ship's systems easily absorbed and converted into extra power for their engines. "These humans," Commander Stone said, shaking his head. "They're like children playing with toys." He turned to his crew, all of whom shared his amused expression. "Record everything. The Council will enjoy watching these primitives struggle." In the United Nations emergency session, world leaders argued frantically about their next move. The alien ship had easily defeated every weapon thrown at it, and now it just sat there, hovering over the planet like a silent threat. "We must try to negotiate," shouted one representative. "With what leverage?" Another responded. "They've already proven they can destroy us whenever they want." As if hearing their desperation, the alien ship suddenly broadcast a message. It appeared on every screen, television, and digital display across the globe. Commander Stone's image filled these screens, his tall, armored form towering over his command chair. "People of Earth," his voice boomed in perfect English, though his mouth moved differently from the words. "I am Commander Stone of the Stellar Empire. We have been watching your kind for some time, debating whether you deserve a place among the galactic community." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are laughable. Your divisions and conflicts show your immaturity. However, the Council requires that we give every world a chance to prove their worth." The world watched in stunned silence as he continued. "I will descend to your planet. I will allow your champions to face me in combat. Should anyone manage to defeat me, Earth will be granted protected status and membership in our empire. Should you fail..." He let the threat hang in the air. In military bases across the world, generals and admirals rushed to select their best fighters. In Washington, D.C., the president gathered his advisors. In Moscow, Beijing, and every major capital, leaders prepared their responses. But Commander Stone wasn't finished. Oh, and to show you how little threat you pose, his ship's weapons suddenly fired, not at cities or military bases, but at the empty desert. The beam carved a perfect circle 3 miles wide in the sand, turning it to glass instantly. That was at 1% power. The message ended, leaving humanity in a state of shocked silence. For the first time in history, every human on Earth faced the same threat, the same fear, and the same humbling realization. They were not alone in the universe, and they were hopelessly outmatched. Or so it seemed. In a small town thousands of miles from the desert demonstration, a 12-year-old boy named Jack watched the alien's message replay on his tablet. While everyone else saw only the threat and the display of power, Jack noticed something else. Something in the way the alien's armor moved, in the way the light played off its surface. He didn't know it yet, but he had seen something that all the world's military experts had missed. Something that would change everything. The alien warrior might have been laughing now, but soon he would learn a lesson about underestimating humans, especially their children. The small town of Pine Grove woke up to find itself at the center of global attention. Commander Stone had chosen their Central Park as his landing site, claiming the location's lovely insignificance made it perfect for his demonstration. His personal shuttle descended from the massive warship above, its engines silent despite its size. The craft settled onto the freshly mowed grass of the park, steam rising where its metal touched the morning dew. The town's 5,000 residents gathered at a safe distance, joined by news crews, military personnel, and curious onlookers from neighboring cities. "This is as good a place as any to prove human weakness," Commander Stone announced as he stepped out of his shuttle. His armor gleamed in the morning sun, each piece flowing like liquid metal while maintaining its solid form. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his presence commanding attention from everyone present. Everyone except Jack, who sat cross-legged on a park bench, still focused on his tablet. He kept replaying videos of the aliens' previous appearances, paying special attention to how the armor moved. "I will face any champion Earth wishes to send against me," Commander Stone declared, his voice carrying across the park without any visible amplification. "To show my generosity, I will not use any weapons. My armor and natural abilities will be more than enough." The military had already prepared for this. They brought forward their first challenger, a decorated martial arts expert who had won numerous international competitions. The man bowed respectfully, then launched into a lightning-fast attack. What happened next made everyone gasp. The martial artist's strikes seemed to pass right through the alien, as if hitting air. Commander Stone hadn't moved. Rather, his armor had somehow shifted, creating gaps exactly where the attacks would land. "Interesting technique," the alien mocked, but utterly useless. With a casual backhand, he sent the champion flying 20 feet across the grass. The man landed hard but survived, thanks to the alien's mercy. More challengers came forward. A heavyweight boxing champion's punches did nothing. An Olympic wrestler couldn't even grab hold of the alien. A special forces soldier's advanced combat techniques proved equally ineffective. "Is this truly the best Earth can offer?" Commander Stone laughed, his armor rippling with amusement. "Perhaps I should face all of you at once. It might make things more interesting." From his bench, Jack noticed something crucial. Each time the alien's armor shifted, it followed a specific pattern. The boy grabbed his notebook and started sketching, his pencil moving quickly across the paper. The military brought out their next solution, a prototype-powered combat suit. The operator, confident in the suit's strength-enhancing abilities, charged at Commander Stone. The alien actually looked pleased at this attempt. "Finally, some technology," he exclaimed, but his joy was short-lived. With a wave of his hand, the combat suit froze in place, its systems completely disabled. Though still primitive technology, I'm afraid. As people began to lose hope, Jack's excitement grew. He had figured out something important. The alien's armor wasn't just protective gear. It was using some kind of energy field that moved in predictable waves. Like ripples in a pond, Jack thought, remembering his science class. "This demonstration has been enlightening," Commander Stone announced. "I will return tomorrow. Bring me better champions, or I will have to conclude that Earth is not worth the Empire's time." As the crowds began to disperse, Jack rushed home, his mind racing with possibilities. He needed to test his theory, and he knew exactly how to do it. The only problem was getting anyone to listen to a 12-year-old kid. In his shuttle, Commander Stone smiled as he prepared to return to his ship. These humans were exactly as weak as he had expected. He had no idea that the key to his defeat was already taking shape in the mind of a child who saw what everyone else had missed. The real challenge was about to begin, but not in the way the alien warrior expected. While the world's greatest minds worked frantically to find a way to defeat Commander Stone, Jack sat in his bedroom surrounded by physics books, his tablet showing endless replays of the aliens' demonstrations. His walls were covered with drawings of wave patterns and energy flow diagrams. "Look at this," he muttered to himself, tracing the movement of the alien's armor with his finger on the screen. "It's just like the Ripple tank experiment from science class." Jack pulled out his old science notebook, flipping to the pages about wave patterns. Last semester, his teacher had shown the class how waves could cancel each other out. Destructive interference, she had called it. The memory made him sit up straighter. "Mom," he called out, running downstairs with his tablet and notebook. "I need to show you something important." His mother looked up from her laptop, where she had been watching news reports about the alien challenge. "Honey, I'm trying to follow the emergency broadcasts. They're saying we might need to evacuate if." "But Mom, I figured something out about the aliens' armor." Jack spread his notes on the kitchen table. "See these patterns? They're exactly like the waves we studied in science class. His armor isn't solid, it's energy." His mother gave him a patient smile. "That's very creative, sweetheart, but the military has their best scientists working on this. They'll figure something out." Jack's shoulders slumped. Even his own mother wouldn't listen. He gathered his notes and headed to the one place he knew he could test his theory, the school science lab. The school was empty, with classes canceled due to the alien crisis. Jack knew the janitor, Mr. Pete, who had always been kind to him. "Please, Mr. Pete, I just need 30 minutes in the lab. It's important." The old janitor looked at the desperate expression on Jack's face and sighed. "30 minutes," he said, unlocking the door. "Don't break anything." Inside the lab, Jack quickly set up the ripple tank, just like his teacher had shown them. He created waves in the water, watching how they interacted. Then he played the video of Commander Stone's armor again, comparing the patterns. "I knew it," he exclaimed. "The way the alien's armor shifted wasn't random. It followed the same principles as waves in water. When someone attacked, the armor created a pattern that dispersed the energy of the attack, like waves spreading out in a pond." Jack spent the next 20 minutes taking videos of his ripple tank experiments and comparing them to the alien's armor movements. Every test confirmed his theory. The armor wasn't invincible. It was just redirecting energy in a very advanced way. He rushed to the police station, where military personnel had set up a temporary command center. "Please, I need to talk to someone in charge," he told the guard at the door. "I know how the alien's armor works." The guard smiled kindly. "Son, we have top scientists working on this. Why don't you go home where it's safe?" Frustrated, Jack tried the local news station next. The receptionist wouldn't even let him past the front desk. Nobody would take a 12-year-old seriously, no matter how good his evidence was. Walking home in the fading evening light, Jack watched Commander Stone's ship hovering in the distance. The alien warrior had made it clear he would return tomorrow for more demonstrations of human weakness. "I know I'm right," Jack said to himself, clutching his notebook. "I just need to prove it." That's when he remembered something else from science class. The best way to prove a theory was to demonstrate it. He didn't need adults to believe him. He needed to show them. Running home, Jack headed straight for his garage. His half-finished science fair project sat in the corner, abandoned when the alien crisis began. Now it might be exactly what he needed. As night fell over the worried town, one determined boy worked by lamplight, preparing to challenge not just an alien warrior, but everyone's assumptions about what a kid could do. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, he would make them see. The garage light flickered as Jack worked through the night. His science fair project, originally designed to demonstrate sound wave patterns, was transforming into something more important. Empty soda cans, old speakers, and spare wires littered the workbench as he modified his invention. "If the armor works like waves," he muttered, connecting another wire, "then it has to follow wave rules. Everything that makes waves has a natural frequency." He remembered the time his dad's car window rattled when certain songs played on the radio. That was resonance, when one vibration matched the natural frequency of another object. Jack had originally built his project to show how sound waves could make patterns in sand, just like in those videos he'd watched online. A noise from the house made him jump. His mother was calling him to bed. "Just 5 more minutes," he shouted back, quickly hiding his work under an old tarp. He couldn't risk anyone stopping him now, not when he was so close. The next morning, Jack skipped breakfast to get back to his project. His hands shook as he made the final adjustments. The device looked simple, just a modified speaker system connected to a signal generator he built from his old video game console parts. But if his calculations were right, it would prove his theory. He needed to test it first. Setting up a bowl of water on his workbench, Jack turned on his device at a low setting. The water's surface began to ripple in regular patterns, just like in his school's ripple tank. When he adjusted the frequency, the patterns changed. Yes, he pumped his fist in excitement. Now for the real test. Jack pulled out his tablet and played a slowed-down video of Commander Stone's armor in action. Frame by frame, he matched the wave patterns in his water bowl to the movements of the alien's armor. It took several tries, but finally, he found a frequency that created exactly the same pattern. "That's it," he whispered. "That's the frequency his armor uses." But making waves in water was one thing. Would his device affect the alien's advanced technology? Jack needed something stronger to test his theory. He remembered the small piece of metal the alien ship had dropped during its first landing, now a prized possession in the town museum. Sneaking into the museum was easier than he expected. Everyone was too busy preparing for the alien's return to notice one small boy. The metal fragment sat in a simple glass case, its surface shimming with the same strange patterns as Commander Stone's armor. Jack set up his device next to the case, hands trembling as he turned it on. At first, nothing happened. He adjusted the frequency, going through the settings he calculated. Still nothing. Then, at exactly the frequency he'd measured from the video, the metal fragment began to vibrate. Its surface rippled, and for a brief moment, the shimmering stopped completely. "I did it!" Jack's excited shout echoed through the empty museum. He quickly packed up his equipment as he heard footsteps approaching. Racing home, his mind was already working on the next step. The device worked, but it needed to be stronger. Much stronger. And he had less than 2 hours before Commander Stone would return for his next demonstration. In his garage, Jack began modifying his device one last time. He connected every speaker he could find, carefully tuning each one to the exact frequency he needed. The final version looked like a mess of wires and electronics, but he knew it would work. "Jack," his mother called from the house. "Where are you?" "They're evacuating everyone to the school basement before the alien returns." "Coming," he replied, carefully packing his device into his backpack. He'd need a way to get close to Commander Stone, but that was a problem for later. Right now, he had the understanding he needed. The alien's greatest strength was about to become his greatest weakness. Jack just hoped he'd be brave enough to use what he'd learned when the moment came. Sometimes, understanding something wasn't enough. You had to be willing to act on that knowledge, even when everyone else thought you were wrong. Commander Stone's shuttle descended into Pine Grove's Central Park for the second time. The crowd was smaller today. Most people had followed evacuation orders. Those who remained watched from behind military barriers, their faces showing a mix of fear and resignation. Yesterday's display was disappointing, Commander Stone announced as he stepped onto the grass. "I hope today Earth can provide a more worthy challenge." Jack stood at the back of the crowd, his backpack heavy with his device. His heart pounded as military officials brought forward their new champions, soldiers in upgraded combat suits, supposedly modified based on yesterday's failure. More primitive armor. Commander Stone laughed. "Very well. Attack me all at once. Perhaps that will make it interesting." The soldiers charged. Their suits sparked with electricity, a last-minute addition meant to overcome the aliens' defenses. But Commander Stone's armor rippled, and the soldiers were thrown back, just like yesterday's challengers. "Is this truly all you can offer?" The alien warrior spread his arms wide. "Perhaps I should just end this now. Your species clearly isn't ready for—" "Wait." Jack's voice cut through the disappointed murmurs of the crowd. "I want to try." Everyone turned to stare as he pushed his way forward. Military guards moved to stop him, but Commander Stone raised his hand. A child. The alien's voice carried genuine amusement. This is what Earth sends now. Very well, little one. Show me what you can do. Jack's hands shook as he set his backpack down and pulled out his device. It looked even more homemade in the daylight, a mess of speakers and wires connected to his modified game console. What is that supposed to be? Commander Stone asked, taking a step closer. It's my science fair project, Jack said, trying to keep his voice steady. Well, it was going to be. Now it's something else. The military commander in charge stepped forward. Son, this is no time for games. Please return to. Let him continue. Commander Stone interrupted. I want to see what this child thinks he can accomplish. Jack took a deep breath and turned on his device. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The alien warrior looked down at him with what might have been pity. Is it broken, little one? Perhaps you should. Then the sound came. It wasn't loud, but something about it made people's teeth ache. Commander Stone's armor began to ripple, but differently than before. The smooth waves became jagged, irregular. What? What is this? The alien's amusement vanished as his armor's ripples grew more chaotic. It's physics, Jack said, his confidence growing as he saw his device working. Your armor uses energy waves to deflect attacks, but every wave has a natural frequency. If you match that frequency. He adjusted a dial, and suddenly Commander Stone's armor stopped moving completely. For the first time, it looked like solid metal instead of flowing energy. Impossible. The alien tried to move, but his armor had become rigid. This is primitive technology. It can't. It's not primitive, Jack said. It's basic. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. My science teacher taught me that. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the mighty alien warrior struggled against his own frozen armor. Military personnel rushed forward, weapons raised, but Jack held up his hand. Wait, he said, turning to Commander Stone. You came here to test us, right? To see if we were worthy. Well, maybe this is the test you needed. Not how strong we are, but how we think. Commander Stone stopped struggling. For a long moment, he stood perfectly still, his armor glinting in the sunlight. Then, slowly, he began to laugh. Not the mocking laugh from before, but something different. Something genuine. A child, he said softly. Defeated by a child using basic wave mechanics. He shook his head. Perhaps we have been measuring worthiness by the wrong standards. Jack turned down his device, allowing the alien's armor to return to normal. He proved his point. Now it was time to see what would happen next. The future of Earth might have just changed, all because one boy paid attention in science class. The silence in Pine Grove's park was broken by the sound of Commander Stone's laughter. Not the mocking laughter from before, but a deep, genuine sound that seemed to carry both respect and embarrassment. I have visited 342 worlds, Commander Stone announced, his armor now functioning normally. I have faced the greatest warriors of a dozen galaxies. And yet, here on this primitive world, a child has done what none of them could. Jack stood his ground, his device still humming quietly in his hands. Military personnel surrounded them both, unsure whether to treat this as a victory or a threat. Tell me, young one, Commander Stone said, kneeling to meet Jack's eyes, how did you discover the frequency? I watched the videos of your armor, Jack explained. The patterns looked like the waves we studied in science class. Everything that makes waves has a natural frequency, like when you break a glass with the right musical note. I just had to find the right frequency for your armor. The alien warrior nodded slowly. A fundamental principle of physics, applied with perfect simplicity. He turned to address the crowd. This is why we test worlds before making contact. But we have been testing for the wrong things. A bright beam of light shot down from the massive ship above, projecting images in the air. They showed different alien worlds, different civilizations, all with advanced technology. We measured advancement by weapons, by ships, by the complexity of technology. Commander Stone continued. We never thought to test for understanding of basic principles, for the ability to see simple solutions to complex problems. The images change, showing Earth's history, simple machines, basic tools, fundamental discoveries that led to greater innovations. Your weapons might be primitive, but your understanding. Commander Stone placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. A child with basic physics knowledge defeated our most advanced armor. Do you know what this means? Jack shook his head, still trying to process everything happening around him. It means we have been wrong about Earth. Your species doesn't lack advancement. You have something far more valuable. You understand the foundations of how the universe works, and you teach these principles to your children. The alien's armor suddenly began to change, parts of it becoming transparent, revealing the complex technology beneath. Our armor was designed by our greatest scientists, using principles so advanced that most of our own people don't understand how it works. But it still follows the basic laws of physics, laws that your children learn in school. Military leaders and scientists pushed forward now, eager to examine the revealed technology. But Commander Stone raised his hand to stop them. The true revelation here isn't about the armor, he said. It's about how we judge advancement. We thought complexity meant superiority. This child proved that understanding fundamentals is more powerful than any advanced technology. Jack looked down at his homemade device, then back at the alien warrior. So, did Earth pass the test? Commander Stone's expression changed to what might have been a smile. Pass it? Young one, you've changed how the test will be given from now on. Your world hasn't just proven itself worthy of joining the galactic community. You've shown us that we need to rethink how we measure civilization's worth. The images above changed again, showing stars and distant worlds. There are many primitive-seeming worlds we rejected because they lacked advanced technology. Perhaps it's time we looked again, this time testing for understanding rather than advancement. Jack felt a surge of pride, not just for himself, but for all of Earth. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one, he said, remembering his teacher's words. Indeed, Commander Stone agreed, and that might be the most advanced concept of all. The revelation wasn't just about alien armor or Earth's place in the galaxy. It was about how true advancement comes from understanding basics, not just creating complexity. And it took a child's clear, uncomplicated view of the world to show this to an advanced alien civilization. 1 month after Jack's demonstration in Pine Grove Park, Earth had changed forever. The massive alien warship was no longer alone in orbit. It had been joined by diplomatic vessels from across the galaxy, all eager to meet the species that had revolutionized the Empire's understanding of civilization. In his bedroom, Jack stared at the medal the United Nations had given him. Next to it sat a more treasured prize, and a plus on his modified science fair project, which his teacher had insisted he present to the class despite everything that had happened. Jack, his mother called from downstairs. The delegates are here. He hurried down to find Commander Stone standing in his living room, accompanied by representatives from 3 different alien species. The alien warrior's armor now moved with a subtle, almost gentle pattern, a deliberate change made after Jack's discovery. Are you ready? Commander Stone asked. The Council wants to hear directly from you about your discovery. Jack nodded, grabbing his backpack. Inside was his original device, now studied and replicated by scientists worldwide. They'd created more powerful versions, of course, but everyone agreed that the simple original should be preserved. At the newly constructed Galactic Embassy, Jack stood before a gathered crowd of humans and aliens. Screens floated in the air, connecting the event to audiences across Earth and beyond. The resolution of our first contact with Earth, Commander Stone announced, wasn't about power or technology. It was about understanding. This young human showed us that advancement isn't measured by complexity, but by comprehension. The alien warrior turned to Jack. Because of your discovery, We found 17 other civilizations we previously overlooked. They all showed the same trait: deep understanding of universal principles taught to their young ones. Jack stepped forward to the podium, which adjusted itself to his height. "I just paid attention in science class," he said simply, earning laughter from both humans and aliens. "That's exactly the point," one of the alien delegates added. "Your species makes understanding accessible. You don't hide knowledge behind complexity. You teach children to see the patterns that govern our universe." The screen showed images of schools around the world, where alien observers now sat in classrooms, learning alongside human children. They weren't there to teach. They were there to understand how humans taught fundamental principles so clearly. "We had it backward," Commander Stone admitted. "We thought teaching complex technology meant advancement. But true advancement is teaching simple principles that can solve complex problems." Earth's first faster-than-light ship was under construction, its design a collaboration between human and alien scientists. But unlike previous alien ships, its systems were built on clearly understood principles, not just advanced technology. "The resolution isn't just about Earth joining the galactic community," Jack said, reading from his carefully prepared notes. "It's about changing how we all think about advancement." He demonstrated his device one last time, making Commander Stone's armor dance with waves. But now the alien warrior moved with the patterns, understanding them instead of fighting them. As the ceremony ended, Jack returned to his seat between his parents. His father squeezed his shoulder proudly. "There's just one thing I don't understand," Jack whispered to Commander Stone, who sat nearby. "Why did you laugh at us in the beginning?" The alien warrior's armor rippled with what Jack now recognized as embarrassment. "Because I thought I knew what advancement looked like. You taught me. Taught all of us that true advancement often looks simple on the surface." Outside the embassy, children played with small anti-gravity devices, understanding the principles behind them thanks to their science classes. Alien visitors watched in amazement as human teachers explained complex concepts using simple experiments and clear examples. The resolution wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. Earth had not only joined the galactic community, but had fundamentally changed it. And it all started because one child saw patterns that others had overlooked, proving that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in complexity, but in simple understanding. The alien warrior who had laughed at Earth's weakness had learned the most important lesson of all. Never underestimate those who understand the basics of how things work.